The US is running low on artillery to supply Ukraine, so as stocks are rebuilt, cluster munitions will be shipped to fill the gap. The Biden administration says the decision came after much consideration.
We recognize that cluster munitions create a risk of civilian harm from unexploded ordnance. This is why we've deferred the decision for as long as we could. But there is also a massive risk of civilian harm if Russian troops and tanks roll over Ukrainian positions and take more Ukrainian territory and subjugate more Ukrainian civilians.
The Pentagon was at pains to point out that it has received reassurance on the weapons use from the Zelensky government.
We're working with Ukraine to minimize the risks associated with the decision. The Ukrainian government has offered us assurances in writing on the responsible use of DPICMs, including that they will not use the rounds in civilian-populated urban environments, and that they will record where they use these rounds, which will simplify later demining efforts.
The Pentagon claims that these cluster munitions have a far lower failure rate than those used before. However, it refuses to release the research upon which that new figure relies. The last publicly released report says the failure rate was 6%, potentially 4 bomblets that will fail to detonate in each munition. That could mean hundreds of thousands of unexploded bomblets littering the battlefield. Nonetheless, Joe Biden said there was no choice.
Munitions, why now?
We've run out of ammunition.
Last year, the US's ambassador to the United Nations chastised Russia at the General Assembly for using cluster munitions, saying they had no place on the battlefield and violated the Geneva Convention. Those statements were then quietly erased by the US from the official transcript. The message now from the administration is when Russia uses cluster munitions, it's a war crime, but when the US supplies Ukraine with cluster munitions, it's all for a good cause. Shihab, Rattansi, Al Jazeera, the Pentagon.